Hello, everybody. Flash Notion here, and it has been far, far too long. I do have a reason why I was gone so long, but I won't be going into that in this video. I'm going to be reserving that for a different video, more precisely the next My Hero Academia reaction, because that's where it's the most relevant. And I swear I did not plan this. It just seems to keep happening that every time I come back, the first thing I come back with is a new Marvel project. Well, I say new, but like, you know what I mean. But in this case, it really was a coincidence because I've been like, I just gotten ready to start recording again, and this came out, and like I thought I had another month before this came out. Um, so yeah, that's a thing. But yeah, we're here today to watch Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. Um, Frankly, don't I don't know how to feel about this one. Um, Obviously, Chadwick Boseman, he was a fantastic actor. He really brought this character to life. I actually enjoyed him as a character, as an actor, in pretty much every version of, like, everywhere he played this. Everywhere he played T'Challa, he did so very well. Um, and yeah, I do think it's very, very sad that he's gone, and that ultimately, right move was made to not recast, probably. Um, yeah, it's all around it's just a hell of a situation. And I won't deny that part of the reason why I'm even watching this for a reaction is because I feel a little bit obligated. Because of what happened with Chadwick, and because I want to see how things go without him there. Um, I've heard a lot of good things about this movie, but I had also heard a lot of good things about the first movie. And I have to say, the first movie isn't one of my favorites. Um, and you know what? That's understandable. Uh, Behind the purple avatar I'm using, which, now that I think about it, I may have fucked up there. Probably should have gone with a lighter purple. Um, but I like dark purple. It's a very nice color. It's meant to be like royal connotations, but also just like, yeah, I can understand how this would be misinterpreted. I am lily fucking white behind this avatar. I am. I'm sorry if that offends anybody. That was not my intention. Um, but yeah, the first Black Panther was not made for me, and that that I don't see why that would truly make me not enjoy it. Um, I just think that once you do get past the achievements, so to speak, of it being such a black led film, um, underneath it all, aside from Killmonger, aside from the actors' performances, it's overall a very mediocre film. The storytelling in general is kind of meh. The plot is kind of meh. Uh the words, damn it. The action is very meh. The CGI and whatnot kind of fell flat, and also it didn't end up having an impact on the wider MCU, in part because of what happened with the snap or the blip or whatever you want to call it. but also just because of how Disney and Marvel handle things. No one film that isn't like an Avengers level film can have an impact on the wider MCU that is actually felt. Um, you can go back to like Iron Man 2, where they were trying to get Tony's technology, and he basically told the government to fuck off. Um, and then, like, ever since the first Iron Man, he's been trying. It's been part of Tony's character that he wants to make clean energy and contribute more to the world than weapons, but nothing's ever really come of that, even after he genuinely figured it out in the first Avengers movie. And so, you go through it all, like, Shield getting taken down. What did that equate to? It ended up equating to nothing. um, so yeah, you can go through all these films, and aside from the introduction of new lore, new characters, the general world of the MCU is still our own world, just a little bit to the left. And there's nothing that's going to change that as long as Disney and Marvel continue to operate the way that they have. Which is very sad and unfortunate, but it is just the nature of the beast. As you know, as long as they continue to prioritize profit and just uh, pumping out content over actual storytelling, it's not going to work. And also as long as they keep having multiple like directors and writers working on these projects rather than all of them working together. It's the advantage that something like, say, Invincible by Robert Kirkman, both the comic and the show, actually, it's an advantage that they have where a singular writer, a singular direction, means that a world can change whatever it wants. It can go as far as it wants with something like that. The MCU does not currently have that option. So yeah, kind of got off topic a little bit there, but the point was that, yeah, the first Black Panther film, not my favorite. I feel like it's a very average film. It's not bad. It's just not great, and it also being 3 hours long means that I don't rewatch it that much. That said, I do remember quite a bit from it, so I'll be interested to see what carries over to this one. As far as what's going on in this one, obviously T'Challa is not going to be in the story directly. I wonder how they're going to handle that. Um, but not that important. Or, well, oh my god, I'm gonna fuck this up so much. Words. What I mean is that ultimately, because that is such an upfront fact, it's going to factor into the movie, but it's ultimately one of the things that I feel like is the least important to discuss. There we go. Like, it's going to be very important to the movie, but not to this discussion. Let's move on. Right, so Riri Williams, aka Ironheart, is going to be in this movie. Um, I'm pretty sure Shuri is going to be the next Black Panther. Um, Obviously, from the trailers, we also know that Namor, the Submariner, is making his MCU debut in this film. Based on a couple of things that I've heard, I've tried to avoid any and all spoilers, discussions, whatever about this movie, and I've mostly succeeded. But I mean, it was pretty obvious from the trailers. But Namor is just out for blood in this film, and I'm very interested to see where we go with that. He's known for being an absolute asshole in the comics, but he's like, it's basically the question of, like, what if Arthur Curry, aka Aquaman, wasn't raised on the surface? What if he was raised in Atlantis? Um, he's even though he's an outsider, he is still the hero of the people. He is still their leader. So so yeah, he's gonna feel a different sort of way than how he does in canon. Um, I also know, of course, that Namor in this version is not from Atlantis, unlike in the comics. They've changed that to be more in line with like an Aztec legend, I believe, or like a Mayan, or somewhere in that like Central America type region is what they're going for. Um, yeah. Also, like they've been hinting at him for a while. Uh, I think it was again Iron Man 2 that there was like a point of interest in the Atlantic Ocean, and then in in Endgame they mentioned something about subduction under the African plate or something like that, an earthquake on the bottom of the ocean, which yeah, I'm pretty sure that was meant to be a hint towards Namor, because obviously they were going to introduce him eventually. I don't remember if he was tied up with the Fantastic Four or something at the time. I don't think so. I might be wrong about that. Either way, it doesn't matter now. Um, so yeah. Uh, as far as like what I'm looking forward to most, honestly, it might be Riri Will. It might be Ironheart. Just because I know she was a very controversial. I know she was a very controversial character in the comics. Um, because if I remember right, like the comic panels I've seen basically had her just like standing up in her middle school or high school class and basically saying, "I can do what Tony Stark did, possibly better," and everybody just kind of laughing at her, and it was like really over the top, on the nose kind of bullshit. Um, but yeah, I mean, if she's involved with Wakanda, then obviously she's smart. So, well, I say she's obviously smart. It's not that she's smart. It's just that Wakanda has a better education system, apparently. Um, and I mean, she might be a prodigy, so there's that. Just, I'm just looking forward to seeing what she does. Because yeah, it seems pretty cool. I'm also looking forward to the action sequences in this one. Just trailers alone have me thinking that they're going to be quite impressive. Maybe not like CGI wise, they might still be janky, but like the choreography of the fights seems like it's going to be different and better. If nothing else, the fact that the antagonist of the film isn't just a copy of Black Panther in terms of the abilities should make it pretty interesting. Um, yeah. Well, I think I've been talking long enough before the start of the actual reaction, so let's get into it, shall we? Let's see if I can remember how to do this, because yeah, okay. So first I switch over here, and then I come over here, and then I say we are starting in 3, 2, 1, and play. The following was recorded shortly after the reaction ended. It's been a couple weeks since then. My feelings may have changed. Apologies if anyone disagrees with what I said here, because I probably do too. Anyway, enjoy the thoughts. So, that was a movie. It's not a bad one, I don't think. A little bit hard to tell right now. I I feel like this movie has some problems. Writing wise, tone wise, in a lot of places overall. Um, Before anything else, I suppose I should talk about something that I didn't talk about beforehand, which is the way that COVID has or had impacted the movie's production. More specifically, Shuri's actress just being an absolute bitch and refusing to get the vaccine. Um, yeah, I, I, I can't support that. I can't say that that's in any way, shape, or form good. I can't, in good conscience, want her to continue being a part of the MCU after that. Frankly, the moment that that shit started up, if I were the person in charge of this movie, I would have said, fuck it. We're going to halt production. We're going to go back. We're going to rewrite this whole fucking movie. And we're going to put Nakia in the position to take over the Black Panther role because she was T'Challa's, you know, I don't really have a word for what she was. Wife is not correct. Girlfriend feels not enough, and baby mama, while accurate, is degrading. So I don't know what to call her, but like I was always of the opinion going into this movie that she would have been a better pick for taking up the mantle than Shuri. Um, I know Shuri did in the comics. I also know that the comics are entirely different from the movies at this point, and that comics Shuri was a very different character from movie Shuri. So yeah, why does it have to be like that? Why can't you change it? Now, obviously, in this movie as it exists now, there is a reason in the sense of like Nakia is a mother and she has a son that she needs to take care of, but like, I mean, that's another thing that could just be written out if they chose. Um, like I get why they put it in there. Little T'Challa Jr. there is probably gonna be a Black Panther later on down the line because you know this shit is gonna keep going for a while longer, and we are definitely headed for like a Young Avengers type situation. So yeah, I don't know. Um, but yeah, as far as Shuri's actress goes, I should know it. I'm pretty sure it's Letitia Wright. Um, I might be wrong about that though. But whoever her actress is, whatever that or whatever her name is, just no, fuck her. She didn't deserve to be the title character. Um, but trying not to let that spoil my opinion of the actual movie, and also trying to figure out positive things to say here. Um, I mean, I like pretty much all the characters, you know, as much as I did last time. Um, I thought Riri was pretty cool. I mean, I never had a negative opinion of her in the comics. I just knew she was controversial, but like, I think what they did here was pretty good, introducing her as like a a genius who, outside of making her own Iron Man type suit, had had like done other things first. Um, Also introducing like the idea of her doing things out of spite, pretty cool. Um, I think the one thing I'm a little bit hesitant on in hindsight is like they never talk about the power source for her suit, and like I don't think that was a arc reactor, so I'm curious, but whatever. Um, Yeah, and I like the design of her initial suit. It's big, it's bulky, it looks like it was thrown together in a garage, you know, with a box of scraps. um, so yeah, Riri, pretty darn cool. I look forward to her. Well, okay. I have opinions on how Disney should be doing these smaller character stories on Disney Plus. So to say that I look forward to her series is a bit of an overstatement, but I look forward to seeing what they do with the character in the future. We'll go with that. Um, Especially because if I'm honest, like as much as I like her, she didn't need to be in this movie. Like the the vibranium sensor doesn't feel like a piece of technology that's so far advanced that general scientists in the MCU couldn't come up with it. Um, yeah, that just it felt like an awkward way to introduce a new character who ultimately ended up contributing very little to the rest of the movie, if I'm honest. Like, I mean, she helped Shuri, but why did Shuri need help? Shuri's a genius. Like, it, it's one of those things about Marvel, especially Phase 4, where they're just introducing characters for the sake of introducing characters. Um, like, yeah, I don't know how else to put that. I'm trying to think of an example from earlier in Marvel, from like phases 1 through 3, and I really can't because it very much is a Phase 4 problem. Um, and Riri is far from the first to be victim to it. Um, but again, I like her as a character, so we'll see where it goes. She was a lot of fun. Uh, Not entirely sure about Okoye's thing there, Midnight Angel. Like, cool call sign. I mean, the costume design is pretty cool. It doesn't look very practical, but whatever. Um, yeah, it's whatever. I honestly don't care about it all that much. But looks cool, sounds cool. We'll see where it maybe ends up later on. I don't know. Um, it's sad to say, I almost feel like I appreciated the Dora Milaje and the Wakandan stuff from Falcon and the Winter Soldier a little bit more than anything in this movie regarding them. But uh, and then there's like I like what was done with the Queen. She almost felt like the main character for about half the movie, and then they killed her, which like yeah, I guess sure, but like I mean I also like the parallels between Killmonger and Shuri that were drawn in the second half. That that felt pretty neat. Um, but also just resolved way too easily. Like I don't know. Like all around, this movie had what felt like a lot of great ideas, but it felt like it lacked a lot of depth. Like it seems like there was going to be a big thematic idea or like a thematic through line here of like bonding through loss, right? Because like you got Namor talking about his mother being gone and how like he doesn't really talk about it, but like he loses his people all the time because he outlives them, and now they're being killed in battle, and it's like he he has a lot going on there, and Shuri lost her brother and now her mother. Like And Riri apparently lost her father. That wasn't brought up until the very end, but or at least not that I could hear. Um, there might have been some dialogue that I missed towards the middle, just because the music was so loud at points, um, and I was commentating. But like, they didn't really do anything with that. They they had like the callback to Civil War, but ultimately that fell a little bit flat for me because like the point of that scene was that was that Zemo's actions were understandable, but far from reasonable. He was letting his revenge take him down a dark path of destruction that could and would actually have negative consequences for the whole world. And T'Challa, realizing that, took a step back, looked at his own actions in trying to avenge his father, and recognized that while the consequences of his actions might not be so severe, he couldn't allow himself to think in the same way that Zemo was thinking. And so he stopped. Here, there's nothing like that. Like, the idea is that, they have to stop fighting for the sake of their people, but, like, we never get a chance to see much of the Wakandan people suffering, and we certainly don't see the people of Talokan suffering. So, like, yeah, it falls flat. It's empty. And, I think a part of that has to do with the scale of this movie. At the end, like, as much as they might have tried, they failed. It was supposed to be a battle between two empires with all kinds of advanced technology, right? Or at least the Wakandans have advanced technology. It felt like the people of Talokan had nothing. Like, they just had the equivalent of rocks on sticks for their weapons, is what it felt like. They had the cool little grenade things, but that's it. So, ultimately, the scale of the battle just felt so small. They talk several times about how Wakanda cannot hope to win against Talokan, but like, for a hot minute there in the battle, it sure as hell seemed like they were winning, and then all of a sudden they weren't. It didn't work. And yeah, I feel like I'm being too negative. I am being too negative. I was supposed to be talking about things that I like. I do like what they did with Namor overall. I feel like he was presented very well. Maybe a little bit too sympathetic at times. Like how can I put this? Like, the first scene with Namor and the people of Talokan, where they were attacking the scientists and whatnot, who were apparently CIA and FBI or whatever, like, that scene was terrifying. It was incredibly well constructed. Probably the best scene in the movie. As far as, like, being an intense, not quite action sequence, but, like, yeah, like, it wasn't a character sequence, it wasn't an emotional sequence, it was meant to be intense, and it did it very well. I guess it was an action scene, at least a little bit. I liked that scene. And I liked the way it set up Namor and Talokan as enemies to be feared. But, and I think this goes back to the idea of, Riri just being kind of tacked on here, because we needed to go to America to get Riri, but because we needed to have that whole side plot that went nowhere, the next time Namor shows up, he's not an unstoppable force. He's just a diplomat. He comes to Wakanda with a proposal. You know, he's very forceful about it, um, and whatnot. But like, he's also very reasonable about it. Very disarming, very charming. You know, he presents himself as a leader trying to do what's best for his people, and for the most part, he succeeds at it. You know, maybe that's just me getting sucked into it, but like, in that moment, I did not see him as an enemy to be feared. I saw him as, yeah, just a leader trying to do what's best for his people, appealing to the one group that he felt could be the most sympathetic to him. And yeah, he didn't go about it in the best way. He was a little bit threatening about it, but like, he didn't how can I put this? Like, it felt less like he was an enemy threatening them and more like he just didn't know how to talk to other leaders. You know, he's a god king that's used to just being obeyed, and therefore his interactions with people who could in many ways be considered his equal just aren't, like, they're very stilted. They're not, what's the right wording? Mature, or like, he doesn't know how to be reasonable? No, that's not quite it. He he doesn't have proper etiquette about it, I guess, is the best way that I can come up with to put it. Um yeah. And you know, to an extent, I understand them not wanting to portray Namor as a straight up supervillain, but like, if they wanted to keep that tone from his introduction, they should have had him come in a lot more forcefully. And frankly, the scene of him declaring war on Wakanda should have been like the end of Act 1. Um, yeah. I'm not here to rewrite the whole movie, and I'm not here to speculate about what the movie would have been with Chadwick Boseman either, but, like, you have to address that idea. Like, if Namor still would have been the enemy in that version of the movie, like, what would it have looked like? And honestly, I feel like, you know, T'Challa seeing his cousin in the ancestral plane would have been way more impactful than Shuri. But yeah, I'm not here for that. What I am here to say is that as much as I enjoy the performance of the actor who plays Namor, there we go. My brain is just fizzling at the moment a little bit. Um, yeah, as much as I enjoyed that performance, as much as I think he's a good character, as much as I look forward to seeing what's done with him in the future, for this movie, I feel like he ended up being a bit inconsistent in terms of the way he's presented and the way his tone is, the way that the tone of the movie is around him. I I didn't know whether to fear him or sympathize with him, and that wasn't in a good way. Like, you can do that in a good way where you have a villain who is very charming and disarming, and you want to sympathize with him, but then he goes and does something horrible, and you're just like, oh no, oh no, what? I don't want to support him now, but I also do, and it's, you know, this big moral question for both the characters and the audience. I mean, for fuck's sake, Killmonger fits that mold to an extent. Um, but I feel like with Namor here, it didn't work out the way that they wanted it to. Um, yeah. Overall, I feel like what they did with Namor was just, in general, pretty cool. I like that they directly call out that he is a mutant. Um, And I like the explanation for, like, yeah, vibranium is what caused his people to go underwater. I like how they connected it back to colonialism because, again, that kind of raises a point of sympathy from Wakanda. Like, just all around, this movie had some great ideas. I just feel like the execution was very flawed. And I don't know how much of that comes down to the rewrites because, I mean, in theory, it shouldn't have mattered. The Chadwick Boseman's death, while very tragic and very unexpected, would have occurred relatively early enough in production that they shouldn't have had any problem like rewriting the movie and then delaying everything a little bit until they got it right. You know, there was no need to rush. People would have been very understanding if this movie took like several extra years just to come out because of the need to do those rewrites. But it felt like they rushed it a little bit. So I don't know if that's the case, but it does feel like that. The other way that, you know, the movie could have ended up messed up is, you know, just studio mandates. I really do feel like Disney and Marvel have been fucking up a little bit too much in terms of how they handle various characters, various events, various plots. Just Phase 4 has had some real bangers, all right? Shang-Chi, absolutely stunning. You know, Spider-Man No Way Home isn't my favorite Marvel film, but I understand that it's actually a really good movie. You know, there are parts of every TV show that has come out that I really liked. Some parts that I didn't like, but for the most part, they were okay. And even, you know, Thor Love and Thunder or Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, like, they had their good parts. But for the most part, Phase 4 has been so mediocre, so inconsistent that it ends up feeling like Marvel and Disney don't know what they're doing anymore. Something that is even all the more apparent when you look at the actual best stuff from Phase 4 is it's the two specials. You know? Werewolf by Night and the Guardians Holiday Special are a little bit hokey at times, but like there's some of the best stuff that Marvel has put out in years. And every time I look up stuff related to them, I just hear people being like, more of this. And like, they're right. The special format, or like the format of those hour-long specials, is absolutely perfect for storytelling. It's just enough time to get to know some characters, to have some cool adventures, without the need for giant world-ending stakes that just aren't reasonable. And, you know, you don't have to necessarily worry about changes to the whole universe and whatnot that, you know, make it harder to tell these big stories. Like, frankly, there are a lot of projects that came out in Phase 4 that shouldn't have been movies or TV shows. They should have been hour-long specials. And I hope that, you know, Disney and Marvel recognize the potential of that format and really embrace it. Especially when you consider that they really could just pair up two of those specials that are like of the same general tone and release them in theaters as a double feature. People would flock to see that. I know I would, at least, if I had money and, you know, wasn't, you know, not wanting to get COVID. I caught a stomach bug the other day. All right? I felt like I was going to puke. I was feeling like crap. And I was deathly afraid that I'd actually gotten COVID somehow. And, yeah. So, to everybody out there who is, you know, still refusing to get the vaccine for any reason other than like you're scared of needles or you literally medically cannot get the vaccine. If you're just refusing it on any kind of religious or moral grounds or whatever, or you just want to own the libs or something, fuck you, fuck you. And to anybody out there who thinks that mask mandates need to be lifted in hospitals and stuff, fuck you. Wear your fucking mask, protect yourself, protect other people, and let's get rid of this fucking disease that should have been gone 3 years ago now. Anyway, that was a tangent. uh, Point being, no, actually, I forgot the point. Right. Point was that yeah, this movie seems like it was fucked up. I don't know whether it was by the rewrites or by Disney studio mandates, but yeah, it doesn't feel like it lived up to its potential. Um, yeah. A little bit hard to do a segue here, but like I did want to talk a little bit about like the fact that this movie, you know, and this might have contributed to the weird tonal stuff, the weird like writing stuff. Um, but this movie is it's a tribute. Like if and you can tell just by looking at the title, Wakanda Forever. Like they could have done a lot to tie that title into the movie. They could have made it seem like Wakanda was on the verge of being wiped out and the people prevailed against all odds, which it kind of seemed like they were going for that, but they didn't. Um, so the title doesn't really connect to the movie, but it's not about that. It's a tribute. It's a tribute to Chadwick Boseman, and it's a very heartfelt one. Like that, the scene at the beginning, the way that the opening uh, logos were done, the way that the title sequence was done, the way that he was credited at the end there, his foundation at the end, like just all around this movie. It's kind of like it's like when the Fast and Furious franchise did their tribute to Paul Walker. All right, and they continue to pay tribute to Paul Walker in as many of these movies as those movies as they can, because like, he was such an integral part of them. In this case, Chadwick, he's not an integral part of the MCU. He's not Tony Stark. If Robert Downey Jr. had died suddenly halfway through the like phase 3, that would have fucked everything up. But like same with like Chris Evans as Captain America. But like Chadwick Boseman, he's important because of the cultural impact of the movies that he was in, and because of the actor himself being so charismatic, rather than his place in the universe. And yeah, this movie it's a celebration of him and the impact that he had, which again, or well, not really again, but it makes me feel bad to shit on the movie and say that it's a bad movie. I don't think it's a bad movie. I don't think it's as good as it could have been and maybe should have been. And I don't think that it being a tribute necessarily holds it back. I just think it maybe contributes to the inconsistencies a little bit. And maybe it feeling rushed is also part of that. I don't know. But like, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Um, so yeah, I feel like that's about all I have here. I'm not really sure where we go from here because like we're back to the same point of like Disney Marvel they they're not doing their job well. All right, like when we got to the end of Phase Four of or Phase One of the MCU, we had a post credit scene showing us Thanos and telling us this is where we're heading. We're heading for Infinity War. Granted, you only knew that if you knew comics. If you didn't know the comics, you were left wondering, what the fuck is all that about? Um, so maybe there's some stuff here that I just don't know about. But like, looking at the slate that's coming up, we've got stuff with Kang, we've got stuff with the Fantastic Four, like Secret Wars is promised. So like, we've got a lot going on. But none of that seems to be hinted at here, and overall, Phase 4 just hasn't had a clear direction. And I'm not the only one to say that. I think pretty much everybody who reviews movies like this or talks about movies like this is said the same thing, that Phase 4 has been just incredibly inconsistent and without overall direction. It really does feel like Disney and Marvel are just taking their various properties, the various characters, and just throwing them at the wall and seeing what sticks. And in a way, I kind of get that, but also just like, that's not, it doesn't work anymore. It was something that worked a little bit back in Phase 1, when we were heading for the Avengers and we knew that when we got to the end of that phase, that's where we were going to be. But here, this is the end of Phase 4. This is the last Phase 4 movie. The next movie that comes out, the next Ant-Man movie, Quantumania, that's the first movie of Phase 5 officially. And that doesn't work. Like, yeah, there's nothing here. There's no build up, there's no payoff, there's no ideas for what comes next. It feels like Marvel and Disney have lost their way a little bit. And I don't know if they're gonna fix it, I actually do have more to say now, because now that I'm thinking about it, like, if we're comparing this movie to its closest DC counterparts, like, on the tribute level, Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is, in my opinion, much more worth talking about just by virtue of its existence compared to this movie. Like, this is a movie that we knew was going to happen with or without Chadwick Boseman, or his character being recast, or being CGI doubled, or anything like that. We knew that this movie was going to happen, and therefore it being a tribute to him doesn't matter, Whereas, Zack Snyder's Justice League, hell of a film, had a lot more going on for it as a tribute, I feel like, in some ways. Because it was a tribute to the fans, it was a tribute to Zack Snyder, it was a tribute to his daughter, and it was a movie that didn't feel like it was ever going to get made, or at least seen in that form, and therefore it just feels way better. And then if we look at this from the perspective of Namor, the Submariner, and what he is, what he represents, what he, where he's drawing from in the comics and whatnot, like, Aquaman was way better. Like, I'm just gonna say that. I like what was done with Aquaman in his movie, or even in, his other appearances in the various Justice League versions. I like it a lot better than what was done with Namor here. Like, I still like Namor, I still like Talokan, but if you're asking me to compare, I mean, holy fuck, the Atlantis in the DC movie was breathtaking. It was gorgeous. And this, it looked nice enough. It also looked very drab. It looked muted and like something I would more expect to see out of, old DC. Now, I don't think DC is, getting better than Marvel in terms of actual movie making. I'm just saying that visually, I think the style of the DC movies was better than this movie. And that's terrible. This movie had some great moments with Namor and his fighting and flying and whatnot. Like, goddamn, I loved that. I loved every scene of that. Even when it did look a little bit wonky in terms of CGI, which, oh yeah, yeah. This movie had some wonky ass CGI at times. Um, but, still looked good enough to me. Definitely better than anything we got, like, in the past of, or, well, look, every time people complain about the CGI and Marvel stuff, I just remember that first theatrical G.I. Joe movie where you had the fucking drill tanks that looked like they were ripped straight out of the 90s. And it's just like that movie was made in 2007. That shouldn't have looked like that, especially when earlier in other parts of the movies they had so much better CGI, like just anything compared to that, like, yeah, Marvel's never going to get that bad. It's never going to look that bad. And therefore, I don't get the point in complaining about it. You can complain about the way Marvel treats its CGI artists. I'll complain about that all day. But I'm never going to complain about the actual quality of the CGI. That's an entirely different story. But yeah, no, I do think that this movie visually was not that great. Like, I didn't, aside from those Namor sequences, it just was boring. It looked boring. It wasn't good. Um, yeah, and again, I feel bad dumping on this movie because it is a tribute, and I want it to be good, and I don't feel like it's bad as a movie. I just, still don't feel like it's that great. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, quick. Is there anything I can say to end this more positively? That I haven't already said. Yeah, actually, I'm at a loss. You know, like I liked Riri. I liked Namor. Um, Other than that, kind of a dud for me. Well, okay. I liked Riri, I liked Namor, and I liked the tributes that were given to Chadwick Boseman. Um, that's what I like about this movie. Am I going to rewatch it anytime soon? Outside of maybe watching some other reactions to it, which Blind Wave will probably be a good one to watch there. But, like, outside of that, no, probably not. Doesn't appeal to me. Oh well. Oh well. Well, that's gonna be it for this one. For those of you who stuck around, thank you. For those of you who are interested in my other stuff, be sure to stick around because I'm gonna be back. I'm gonna be posting. I don't know actually what sort of schedule I'm gonna be putting myself on here, but like, I'm gonna be trying to finish out Konosuba. Gonna be trying to finish out My Hero Academia. Well, I say finish out, catch up on My Hero Academia. Ruby Volume 9 is going to be coming out sometime later in the month that I'm recording this in. So that's fantastic. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to record with that. Because I'm used to watching Ruby like multiple episodes at a time at this point. I binge watched Ruby Volume 8 and it was fantastic. And I have so far, aside from the mouse, I know about the mouse, but aside from that, I have not watched any of like the trailers or sneak peeks or anything for Volume 9. I don't know shit, and I want it to stay that way. So yeah, that's what's coming up on the channel. Other than that, yeah, I don't know. I think that's going to be all for this video. So yeah, thank you. I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.